My best man slept with my fiancée the night before our wedding, and he smirked as he showed me the messages. I didn't respond, but when he woke up this morning, his life was in ruins. I should have realized something wasn't right when Killen insisted on making hotel arrangements for the wedding party. "You've got enough on your plate, man. Let me take care of it," he said, showing me screenshots of the reservations on his phone. My best friend since college has always trying to help, and I now realize When I couldn't find Holly at the rehearsal dinner after the party, she texted that she was feeling overwhelmed and needed some air. I assumed she was just having pre-wedding jitters, but it turns out she was having something else entirely. I need to write this down while it's still fresh because maybe it will help someone else see the signs I missed. To be honest, though, I was too busy with work and wedding prep to notice how much time Holly and Kylan were spending together planning the perfect day. When I opened Instagram to message Holly, I noticed that she had unintentionally posted a story that was only for a brief moment before deleting it, but long enough for me to notice that the hotel room number in the background was different from ours, room 847. The problem with being with someone for 3 years is that you know their passcode, and Holly never changed hers. Her sister's birthday was on the day I hadn't checked on her. I trusted her, so I used the spare key card that Kay had given me earlier in case of emergency. The hallway was quiet except for my footsteps and a distant ice machine, and the door beeped green. I didn't yell or throw anything. I just stood there taking pictures as proof. That's when Killen saw me, and instead of jumping or trying to hide, he smirked and said, "She was never yours to begin with." Reaching for his phone to see the messages, how long this has been going on, and how she keeps coming to me whenever you're too busy with work. Hollywood was crying and clutching sheets to her chest. "Daniel, please, I can explain," I said. My voice is steady. "Keep the ring. It's fake anyway." But watching her face fall was worth the lie. Kylan laughed constantly, which is why she needed someone who could actually do that. The funny thing is, though, that you recently lost your job and are unaware of it. But his smile briefly appeared. "We work at the same company." Elsie was his direct report, and I have copies of every inappropriate email he sent from his work account, every time he took credit for other people's work, and every favor he asked for. He said, "You're bluffing." But I could see the uncertainty creeping in. I smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. The kind of smile you give when you know exactly how someone's life is about to fall apart. "Remember that project you led last quarter, for which you received a bonus, who had just moved departments, and she had kept a thorough record of everything. I also kept holding up my phone, sending some intriguing screenshots to Odette. You know, your fiancé is the one you're supposed to marry next month?" And Holly was staring at him. "You're engaged." I left them fighting, walked out coolly, and called my parents on the way down. I'll explain later, I promise. I got in my car, drove to the 24-hour diner where I used to study while in college, ordered coffee, opened my laptop, and he doesn't know me at all. I don't do drama, I do consequences. This isn't a story about heartbreak. It's about karma, and since many people are asking yes, I'm going to become karma's favorite assistant edit. I started writing emails for HR. The wedding venue was non-refundable, but that's okay. It was worth it to learn now rather than years later. In addition, watching Killen's perfectly planned life fall apart will be worth every penny. I have backups of everything, so no, I won't try to work it out with Holly. And for those who think I'm handling this too coolly, would you rather I get charged with assault? No, some people want their retribution served hot, so I prefer it cold. Don't worry, I've got that covered. Everything will be handled by the book. We'll update when there's more to share, but for now, I need to cancel some vendors and make a few calls. It's been 5 days since I caught my ex-fiancée Holly and my best man, Kylan, together, and a lot has happened. I think it's time for an update. Remember how I mentioned having evidence of Kylan's workplace misconduct? Well, Monday morning was interesting. I arrived at the office early, around 6 a.m. Thank you all for your support on my last post, which went viral more than I anticipated. For those who are wondering, I'm doing fine. No, I haven't had any breakdowns. I've been busy. I had an early meeting with HR at 7, so I brought all of the receipts. However, to give you a little background, the morning after the incident, I spent 4 hours canceling wedding arrangements. Pro tip, When vendors learn that the bride slept with the best man, they become surprisingly lenient when it comes to refund policies. Most of them refunded at least 60%. The vendors who didn't do well will soon receive interesting reviews from wedding guests who actually used their services. And Holly has been bombarding my phone with apologies and accusations. You never had time for me. More apologies? I haven't blocked her. I'm just letting the messages accumulate. They might come in handy later. The interesting part is that she has been sending some of these messages using her work email, which is the system that clearly states that all communications can be monitored. She has been scheduling meetings with Killen for months, and even though he has been surprisingly quiet, likely because Odette, his fiancée, isn't returning his calls, she had suspicions already, and my evidence was the last straw she needed. Asked for information on Facebook, and we met for coffee yesterday. She said that he always had reasons for staying late at work, and that it was funny how many of those projects were actually him taking credit for other people's work. Then, she showed me screenshots of her phone conversations between Killen and 3 other women over the course of the last year, all of which followed the same pattern while he was engaged to her. The irony is that he made me feel crazy. When I inquired about Holly last month, she volunteered to help me and said that he needs to learn that actions have consequences. Speaking of consequences, keep in mind Elsie Kylan's former teammate who kept records. She has been gathering evidence of his innovative approach to project management for months, including emails in which he claims credit for her work, messages in which he pressures junior team members to cover for his absences, and meeting recordings in which he presents others' ideas as his own. The HR meeting proceeded according to plan, and they are starting a formal investigation. Killen was called on Tuesday afternoon. He tried to act cool until they showed him the evidence. But the cherry on top is that Holly is unaware of Odette or the other women, but she believes she is special and that Kylan will sacrifice everything for her. The group chat with Odette and Elsie has been enlightening, and the best part of all of this is that I'm sleeping well and heading to work. While I've finished my work, Killen is sweating profusely in meetings as he watches his career fall apart. Holly is receiving increasingly panicked texts from him, which she forwards to me, asking what's going on. I simply respond, it drives her crazy. Some of you may think this is cold, and it is, but you know what's colder than pretending to do your best friend a favor. I have more planned, but I need to be careful about what I share here. Let's just say that the department meeting next week should be lively. I'm not an amateur. P.S. Holly, because I know you found my Reddit account. How was the conversation with HR regarding improper use of company resources? Kylan was supposed to give a project overview, but someone discovered evidence that he took most of it from a competitor's public GitHub repository. Edit to the people messaging me about taking the high road. The low road would involve actions I can't mention without violating Reddit's terms of service. Edit 2. Yes, I've backed up everything multiple copies in multiple locations. Email going, you might want to check your work inbox. It's been 2 weeks since I last sent out an update, and many of you have been messaging me for news. Well, grab some popcorn. Karma just cashed every check that Kylan wrote. You may recall that department meeting I mentioned where he was supposed to present his innovative project, but it never happened because, as a brief backstory, 3 hours prior to the meeting, Odette entered the office. Odette works in marketing for one of our client companies, and it turns out that she has access to their internal communications. When Kylan reorganized the team assignments, Odette brought more than just screenshots. She brought witnesses, 3 former team members who had quit due to Kylan's management style. They had been waiting for an opportunity to speak up, but the meeting took a completely different turn when, instead of presenting stolen work, HR called him in for an interview. These systems included emails from 6 months prior in which Killen attempted to approach her coworker while claiming he was single. This coworker later rejected him and inexplicably was removed from key projects. Emergency review, he was taken out by security 4 hours later with his depressing little box of desk plants and protein shakers. But that wasn't even the best part. Holly, my beloved ex-fiancée, thought this was the ideal opportunity to try to win me back. She came to my house on Tuesday night, crying, explaining that she had made a terrible mistake and that Kylan had deceived her. It would have been more convincing if she hadn't sent him a WhatsApp message 2 hours earlier. Yes, I still have access to her backup email, which contains all of her notifications, asking when they could meet up. I gave her 5 minutes to speak, And then I played the audio recording from my security doorbell from last week, in which she was laughing with Kylan about how they would finally be able to be together openly once he got promoted. Holly, check your phone right now. Her face is completely white as she pulls up Twitter, where someone coughed Odette Call had just posted a long thread about toxic leadership and workplace harassment, naming names, and it was going viral in our industry circles. Began panicking and texting Kylan without getting a response, then called him straight to voicemail. At that point, her own phone buzzed with an email from HR regarding inappropriate workplace communications and a meeting that was scheduled for tomorrow morning. She whispered to me, "What did you do?" Because every email, message, and brief meeting in the conference room was recorded in the company's logs. Perhaps you should use these emails the next time instead of work ones to plan hookups. An hour later, her Instagram story revealed Kylan isn't doing much better. His LinkedIn now shows him as looking for opportunities, and his engagement over Odette made sure everyone knew why his apartment complex was giving him 30 days to move out because, guess what? His now ex-fiancée co-signed his lease. The friend group has basically excommunicated him. It turns out that I wasn't the only one he'd screwed over. 3 other guys came forward with stories about him hitting. She was drinking wine and posting ambiguous quotes about toxic men and betrayal, and the comments weren't sympathetic. The best part of all of this was that I hardly had to do anything. Just gave a little shove, and their house of cards fell apart on its own. On their girlfriends ruining their job, he borrowed money that he never paid back. Classic narcissist playbook. Holly is dealing with her own fallout. That HR meeting didn't go well. She's on administrative leave pending review, and her sister, my almost sister-in-law, messaged me to say that Holly had to move back home because she couldn't afford her apartment alone. The majority of the work was done by them. Kylan's last message to me was intriguing. "You've ruined my life." I responded with a screenshot of his own words from that night, adding, "She was never yours to begin with. Guess what, man, now she's not yours either." It's funny how that works. For those who are wondering, yes, I'm doing fine. Actually met someone new. We're taking it slow, but Rain, that's her name, is different. She's genuine. No games, no drama, just real conversations and honest intentions. This is my final update on the best man fiancé betrayal saga. I wasn't gonna write it, but something happened last night that perfectly wrapped up this whole mess. I was eating dinner in the rain at this new burger place downtown. The answer is still no, and you might want to check your credit score. Joint credit cards get messy during breakups. The final update will come once everything is completely settled. But for now, life is great. Remember that people don't get angry, get strategic, and always keep receipts. We've been dating for 4 months, and she's amazing, but that's not the point of this story. You know who was working behind the counter? Kylan in a paper hat. At first, he pretended not to see me, but Rain wanted to change her order. She didn't know who he was, so I hadn't shown her any pictures. When I stepped up to the counter, Priceless asked, "Can I speak to you?" He muttered, trying to look dignified in his Gria-stained uniform. I checked with Rain and she was okay with it, so she followed him to the side of the counter. I asked because I have some updates you might find interesting. I pulled out my phone and showed him Holly's most recent Instagram post, which showed her back in her hometown working at her dad's hardware store. He was yelling about how I had ruined his life, how he was living in his mom's basement, and how no one in our industry would hire him. He finally ran out of steam and felt better. This was during his smoke break. The caption was some bullshit about rebuilding and finding her soulmate, who is truly living her best life. She told everyone that you forced her into it and even told your mom that loyalty isn't her strong suit. He tried to take my phone, but it was a really bad move. Remember Odette? She's dating a big dude named Maurice who happened to be having dinner inside. Her timing was funny because Maurice came out just as Kylan was getting in my face. Took for Kylan to back down, but this is the real karma. As all of this was going on outside, guess who entered the restaurant? Holly came in specifically hoping to run into Kylan. She had apparently come because she saw Rain sitting by herself at our table and recognized her from my Instagram. According to Rain, Holly came over and began to run her mouth, saying that I was a manipulator and that I had planned everything to ruin her in Kylan's real love. Rain simply laughed and began recording, which Holly didn't like. Rain was calmly finishing her fries when the manager got involved. I brought up Elsie, Kylan's former teammate, whose cousin owns the restaurant Small World. By the time I returned, Holly was being told not to go back, and Kylan was being told that this would be his last week. It seems that he had been keeping his personal visits from Holly during shifts. "Your ex is amusing," Rain said. "She tried to warn me about you." I showed her our vacation pictures from last month, the ones where we're hiking with my kids, and she fell silent. Rain is a single mom with 2 amazing kids who enjoy video games and pizza. On the weekends, we play Minecraft together. However, later that night, I received a series of inebriated texts from Holly about how she had sacrificed everything for Kylan and how I had betrayed their love. It seemed that she had expected him to get another corporate job quickly after learning that he had been working fast food for 3 months and keeping it from her. This morning, Kellen's mother messaged me, and unlike her son, she's actually decent. She apologized for everything and told me that Kylan had been lying to everyone about being between consulting jobs. The best part is that my company recently promoted me to lead my own team. The first project was cleaning up the mess Kylan left behind, and Elsie, who is now my senior team member, is completely rewriting his borrowed code because people are asking, "Yes, Rain knows." I showed her all of my previous posts on our 3rd date, and she responded, "You know how to stand up for you, my former partner didn't."